Welcome to Light It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Light It Up. I am your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. I want to thank you for tuning in once again to Light It Up. This week, we are going to continue the conversation. I've been interviewing a few men about their experience as fathers. And I have another very special guest this week on Light It Up, Mr. Derrick Robinson, who is a photojournalist for ABC 7 here in Chicago. Welcome to Light It Up, Derrick.
Hi, Aginah. How are you?
Well, doing well. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest today.
You're welcome.
So before we get into our topic, first, I want to thank you for agreeing to share your story. You have a story that I think people will want to hear. As you know, I've interviewed a couple of other Black fathers. And as I shared with you, the purpose in doing these episodes is to change the narrative of Black fatherhood, because oftentimes there seems to be a negative connotation. And I know quite a few excellent fathers. And so I asked if you would join the podcast and share your experience as a father, specifically as a single dad now. Uh, but before we get into that, why don't you tell the audience about yourself? I already.
I won't say my age, but I am a photojournalist slash broadcast engineer with ABC 7. I've been doing this since college, so roughly over 30 years. Member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, graduate of Grambling State University, father of three kids, ages 30, two boys, two men, ages 30, 25, and my baby girl who's a 16-year-old junior. So pretty much that's it.
All right. Okay. Good old alpha man. So let me just ask you, did you always know that you wanted to go into the media industry?
you know, I was kind of a weird kid. Like I was attracted to news ever since I was younger. Like my allowance, I would go back if it was like if I was out of school for the day, like if Christmas break or summer vacation, I would buy a newspaper every day, Sun Times every day. I watched TV news faithfully, especially Channel 7. So I always kind of knew I wanted to do this. And I think it was one story in particular. Backtrack a little bit. The 80s was, it was a very exciting time for Black Chicago,
Mhm.
Chicagoans. And I say a brief period between 83 and 87, we had Harold Washington becoming mayor, first Black mayor. Uh, Oprah Winfrey and Michael Jordan emerging, you
Mhm.
know, 85 Bears. And I think it kind of ended with Harold Washington passing unexpectedly at 87, but it was one story in particular during the time period, and that was the death of Ben Wilson. And for those who don't know, Ben Wilson was like the number one rated player in the nation. Went to Simeon High School,
Mhm.
and he was killed by another teenager. And I remember watching the media coverage of that, and it really hit me. And I said, man, I think I want to do this. You know,
Wow.
so they kind of set the path for me.
And then for the news station, ultimately, to work for the news station that you kind of grew up watching news anchors as a child.
Right. And not just that. Another funny story is our our street side studio that you won't see much of it now because of COVID and they have the curtains down and everything. But anybody that knows we have a street side studio and you can watch the newscast, or you used to be able to watch the newscast from the street.
Right.
That actually was a movie theater when we were growing up, the State and Lake Theater, and
What?
it was actually one of my favorite theater. That theater and the one across the street, the Chicago Theater, were my two favorite theaters growing up. And actually, that was my favorite block downtown growing up. And then I had the opportunity to work on that block. That's special.
So it's kind of full circle for you.
Right, full circle. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so let's get into because before we get into your experience as a father, I'd like
Hmm.
to ask you about your own childhood growing up. So did you
Hmm.
grow up with both your mother and your father?
Both my mother and father, both Mississippi residents. They were country as all get out, but they were the best parents. They really were. Hardworking, dedicated. They were about their family. They were no nonsense. They didn't take much mess, and they didn't stand for mediocrity. But I couldn't ask for two better parents. And if you were about your business, oh, they looked out for you. It's nothing you couldn't ask for if you were about the business. And that's what I learned. I learned to, stay on your business and good things will come to you. Don't slack, don't become lackadaisical. Uh, my mother's still alive, thank God.
Mhm.
I lost my father my last semester of college at Grambling. I actually left home on a Tuesday only to have a policeman knock on my door because for some reason I was waiting for we had a house and we were trying to get it cleaned out. So I was staying with a fraternity brother, and my roommate came to the door with a policeman and they told me that my father had passed. So that hit me hard. That hit me real hard. And that was 28 years ago. But it's your father, I miss him like it happened yesterday,
Yeah, I know. So, and with grief, there is, I tell people there's no time limitation in terms of how long you will grieve the passing of someone that you've lost.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
what, how was your relationship with your father? Do you think that, what were some things that you learned from him or that maybe you've incorporated?
Well, he was a hard man. Like he was hard, but like I said, he was a very fair man. If you were about your business, it's nothing he wouldn't do for you. I mean, nothing you couldn't ask for. But he put family first. My father wasn't the type of man. He didn't. Some fathers would go out drinking, and he never did that. He might stop by and see a friend and have a beer, maybe, but all that staying out late and going out every weekend, he was strictly about the business, about how much money he could put into our household. How you bond with him and my mother. They were all about saving. So the financial aspect was there. Was never argument about finances or anything. Just basically how to take care of your family. Dedication to your family, and they come first. Your kids come first. He showed me the value of hard work. And for him to be a child of Mississippi, and especially Jim Crow Mississippi, he never let racism get to him. He got to take care of yourself. You got to do what's necessary. No excuses. You know.
So let's talk about Derrick as a father. So you
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned you have three children, two adult
Mm-hmm.
sons and a daughter who's
Right.
16.
Right.
And you were married
Exactly.
and your wife Alice passed away
Unexpectedly. Yeah.
unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
You talk to us about that.
Well, let me take you back to December 18th, 2017. It was early, not I would say winter, the early winter night, kind of cool, but not like freezing cold. And I remember I had to go to the United Center and do some things with the Bulls after the game, like locker room interviews.
Mhm.
Coming home from work, I remember I was tired, very tired, and I remember coming home and sitting on the couch, and then I drifted off to sleep. And I heard her come down the steps, but she was very quiet. when she came down the steps, like a church mouse almost, but it woke me up.
Mhm.
I remember she had my daughter binder in her hand. She must have been going to put it on the table so she could put it in a book bag in the morning. And she came downstairs and she just told me, she said, Derrick, why don't you come get into bed and go to bed? I said, I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her and she went into the kitchen. She came back out the kitchen and walked up the steps and turned the corner. That was the last time I saw her alive. But one thing that struck me as weird is I never took my eyes off of her. Like, I didn't say anything, but I just stared at her as she walked up the steps. And even at the moment, I couldn't understand in my brain, why are you doing that?
Mhm.
So about 4:45 um, the following morning, uh, I heard what I thought was snoring, but it actually sounded like just air coming out. So I called her name twice, and I'm thinking she's snoring. I'm like, this is weird. I never heard her snoring like this. And she didn't respond. Turned the light on, and she was unresponsive. Just eyes were open, but unresponsive. So I called the ambulance. My daughter woke up. She started calling family. Um, Homewood police, Homewood, Illinois, where I live. I think the policeman was here under 3 minutes. He got here so quick. Ran upstairs. We put her on the floor. We tried to revive her. Then everybody started coming. Paramedics and more policemen. Um, uh, my first inkling that there was a problem was I saw how one paramedic looked at the other one, the look he gave him. So they took her out. Policeman pulled me to the side and talked to me. He said, just take your time, put your clothes on, meet us up there. He said, don't rush up there. Don't try to fall in the ambulance. Just please, we'll take care of you when you get up there. So by the time I got there, some family was there already. My daughter and I got to the hospital. And then a lot of families started showing up. Um, they put us in a room, and then a chaplain came in and introduced himself. When that chaplain came in, I kind of knew, but I still had hope, you know. Then the doctor came in and we talked, and the doctor said we were able to get her heart rate back up, but she has no brain activity. If we kept her on the machine, she'd just be a vegetable. So then we made the decision. They said we'll keep working on it and see, but it doesn't look good. And so I remember at that point it hit me like a ton of bricks. And being in that room and like punches coming at me, all type of thoughts came in my head like, oh my God, my wife isn't here anymore. I'm not going to be with her anymore. Um, what about the kids? How are they going to react? But the one thought that I remember still in my head was my daughter was off to the side with my sister-in-law, some more relatives. And I remember I cut my eyes over at her in my head. I said, oh my God, I got to raise her by myself. How am I going to do this? You know? And they worked on it a little more. Then, pronounced her dead. By that time, so much, co-workers started coming up to the hospital. We had the whole emergency room. It was just us, just co-workers and family and everything. And that's when the reality set
Yeah,
in.
that is yeah, that's a very hard reality. And I have had that same type of
Mm-hmm.
scenario
Mm-hmm.
well, and then having to experience that is it's really undescribable. So I really appreciate
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
um being willing to share that. And
Mm-hmm.
your daughter was what, 13?
She's 13 at the time in eighth grade, you know, and two boys away at school at the time and getting the word to them that, yeah, hey,
Mm,
it's, in fact, I don't think my oldest found out till he arrived at Midway. I think
wow.
my sister-in-law told him. Yeah. Yeah.
And you and your wife were together for a pretty long time,
Yeah.
right?
We were prom dates, high school prom dates. Yeah. Yeah. So we met in 88. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, long time.
So how do you mentioned that, obviously that hit you like a ton of bricks. You weren't
Mm,
prepared for that.
right.
It was unexpected, to your knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't ill or
Not
anything
at all.
that should.
Not at all. Right.
And I assume that she probably, at least with your daughter being the only one, in the house, that she
Mm-hmm.
the caretaker.
Yeah, I mean, she worked a full-time job too. By the grace of God, the job was only 10 minutes away from the house. So she was able to be there for my daughter and everything. But she pretty much, yeah, I mean, she took, because I worked a lot of hours, she took care of the house.
Right, right. So how did you, with that initial shock, what how did you begin to make the transition to now having to be the sole, I guess, caretaker
Mhm.
for your daughter?
Right. It was rough, but I could say I had people to help me. First and foremost is my mother. My mother pretty much just started staying with us Monday through Friday,
Mhm,
helping out. That was a tremendous help. And then my sister-in-law, my wife's sister,
mhm.
and my sister have been they have they have been fabulous. So that's without those three, I don't know what I would have did. You know, not
Right,
just because they're there for my daughter, but also they bring the womanly aspect that she needs.
right, right.
So they've been without them, I don't know what I would
Yeah, because this is a very, I mean, 13 to 16, it's a very pivotal time
have.
um for a young lady. Uh,
Right,
so
right.
so what type of in terms of so then how did you begin to balance work, parenting? I know you have your mother, your sister, and your sister-in-laws helping.
Hmm.
What did that look like in terms of begin?
Well, I mean, they were there for the most part with the everyday, taking her to activities and everything. But I had to keep abreast of things that was happening at school. But I have to give her credit. She's very mature, and it's not like anything goes past her. Where like, Danielle, what this happened in school? Why didn't you tell me about this event and that? She's on top of it. So
Mhm,
I've never had that problem. But definitely, trying to be more in tune with teachers and administration on what's going on with the school and everything. That's been kind of different. But my wife really kept you know abreast of that stuff.
mhm,
But that's been kind of difficult. I mean, just running her on a lot, running a lot of errands for her or with her,
mhm.
especially on weekends. Like I didn't always have to do that because my wife was here to do it. But
Right.
now I'm constantly running back and forth, or the phone calls at work. I need this, I need that, and this and that, and this is what's going on. I get maybe a phone call every half hour. So,
Okay.
so yeah.
So how would you describe your parenting style?
Hey, I'm a little bit like my father. I can get frustrated sometimes. I mean, that's the old school way.
Mhm,
But like my father was an excellent provider, and he was a good man. But he could be short uh, you know, with that temper.
mhm,
And also he wasn't much of a nurturer. And I think a lot of fathers from the era just weren't they weren't nurturers.
mhm,
But I have to kind of, because my daughter and I have always had a great relationship since she was born.
mhm,
So I mean, like she would play doctor with me with the stethoscope and all that, and fix me fake food and all that. So we've always had that relationship. So I'm a little more calm. Like, I don't know if she's going through something. Is it hormones? Are you just being a typical teenager?
mhm.
Are you thinking about your mother? So I try to balance it and be calm when I deal with her. You
Yeah.
know, every now and then I get upset, but I try to backtrack.
Mhm.
And
Do you ever find yourself, because I kind of hear this regardless as to the reason why a parent is parenting solo, right? But
mhm,
I hear sometimes, and I know I have been, I don't know if I want to use the term guilty of it, but do you ever find yourself trying to overcompensate?
Of
Be
course. Yeah, you got to remember because I know she doesn't have a mother, so you do try to overcompensate because I think about it. We have our mothers in our lives,
Mhm.
and I have to face the fact that her mother won't walk across a high school, college stage. She won't help her pick her prom dress, won't help her decorate her dorm room. They won't have to talk about boys, men and relationships. Won't help her pick a wedding dress. All that stuff I think about. So yeah, I try to overcompensate and try to be there for her. But so do my mother's the same way. She tries to overcompensate and help and help her. Just
Mhm.
my mother's so old fashioned that they sometimes don't connect.
Yeah.
For me, when I was growing up. So you know,
So what has been I guess as a father of well with your sons, let's talk about them too
mhm.
because um you how was your parenting style with them? Did it differ because they're boys?
Oh, most definitely different. I was harder, and I'd probably say I was probably harder on the oldest more so than any of them.
Mhm.
And because I was younger and I thought I had to be, but definitely I was much harder on him than I think anybody that's the oldest could tell you that they were harder on me than they were, say, my younger brother or sister. So my style was different. And you learn over time, everything isn't. I think the biggest problem sometimes with parents, we're so quick to discipline, and we think that this kid isn't listening because he's being disrespectful or he's just a bad kid. And we gotta understand they go through things too. We don't ever know what's going through their heads. And what a child might be listening, you don't know what problem he's going through. I mean, you just sometimes you gotta take a step back. Now some things you gotta get on a child about. We know that, but sometimes I think we gotta take a step back and evaluate before we just go off and start, because you don't know what they're going through.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, what would you say is the most rewarding thing about being a father?
I think when you see them do well, especially my daughter, like right now, through everything, she's an A student, yeah, and honors and AP classes. So that really makes that makes me very happy. It does my heart well to see. Because I'm gonna tell you, she's been so strong since her mother died. I know I wasn't gonna be that strong at 13 if I would have lost my mother. I just don't think I would have been, and that's what I really worried about because she's always been an honor roll student.
Hmm.
She, during the time her mother passed, she was taking high school classes in eighth grade. So I just thought, oh my God, I hope this doesn't end. I hope it doesn't affect her mentally. And we got her counseling, but she's hung in there and she's been doing well. So when you see them doing well, especially um, doing well during adverse situations or everything, that makes you feel good. You know.
Now, now I know you just mentioned that you made sure that your daughter had counseling.
Hmm.
And I'm going to raise this point since I'm talking to a Black man.
Hmm.
Now, have you yourself gone through counseling since the passing of?
No, no, and I should have, but the problem is I'm worrying about everybody else. I probably should have, and I don't think it's too late to have counseling. And I probably will, but I just haven't had the chance.
Okay.
I haven't had a chance.
Okay. And I have to throw that out. I did a few episodes you know, focusing on the importance of counseling, and we've touched on grief and that sort of thing. So just wanted to throw that question out there for you.
Okay.
So, what else can you tell me in terms of your experience? What has, I guess, some of the challenges been with, you know, being in this situation?
I guess some of the challenges are, I mean, you just don't have your mate anymore. anymore. And it could be lonely at times, you know. And again, me putting others before me, I don't so much worry about myself, but I do worry about my daughter not, you know, having that, having her mother. They were so close, you know. When I say they were close, they were close. I would have to come home and get her out of my bed. You know, she would always fall asleep watching TV with her mother. But you do worry about that. I guess I worry about her not having that mother figure here, and I guess other challenges, like you said, one thing you said, trying to overcompensate.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing, and just trying to keep the household together. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I'm pretty sure it's not enough time in the day either to,
yeah. Not enough time in the day.
yeah,
Not at all.
yeah,
Not at all.
yeah. So, as what, I guess, what can you share if there's, um, a man who's going through a similar situation right now? What advice would you give to a father who has to unexpectedly begin to raise his children on his own?
Know that you're more than you're enough. You're enough. It's going to seem difficult. You might question God. You wondering. It seems like chaos around you. You wondering what happened, but know that you're enough. And no matter how bleak the situation looks, how lonely and you feel, know that you can do this. You can do this. It's going to be days. It's days I wake up and I'm like, I feel exhausted. I can't believe I'm in this situation, and but I pray and I just move forward. Trust me, it's days I'm very frustrated. I'm by myself, you know.
Hmm.
And I say it again, not necessarily for me, but knowing that I'm raising, a daughter by myself, because I worry about her, if anything, knowing that she doesn't have a mother here.
Right.
I mean, your child of divorce, you you still have both parents, you know.
Hmm.
But if I could tell that father anything, just hang in there. You can do it. Hang in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just throwing this in there because you had a support system
Right.
too. So I'm sure that that is extremely important to
Right.
have a
And
support system.
not just a support system with family, my frat, my friends. I could tell you, especially going outside of family, uh, physical family, blood relatives, my grandma family, my fraternity brothers, and my Channel 7 family were fantastic. I mean, they really were there for me, and they still continue to be there.
Yeah,
So that's been a blessing.
that's good. And I've had the I guess the good pleasure of meeting some of the Graham fam.
Uh, with something else, aren't we?
Yes, yes. That's the beauty of attending an HBCU.
Yes, yes.
I can't relate with my PWI education.
Right. One of the best decisions in my life.
So, another question that I wanted to ask you while I still have you here, as far as I guess lessons that you learned from your father, um, as far as parenting is concerned. What was the greatest lesson that you learned from him as a father?
You make your own way in this world. No excuses. I mean, we all are going to go through bumps in the road, and we're all going to go through bad situations, but you control your destiny. Like I said, he was a child of Mississippi. I mean, he grew up. He was a teenager in 1950s Mississippi,
Mhm.
and he rarely talks about racism. He you just got to make your own way. You got to transcend whatever comes your way. You just have to transcend. You know,
Mhm.
and that was pretty much it.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Oh, and also the hard work. Uh, aspect. I'm like a lazy bum next to him. And I think I'm a pretty hard worker, but him, I'm like a lazy bum compared to him with his work ethic.
Well, one thing that I would like to encourage you is to make sure that you find the time to do some of the things that you enjoy, which I'm sure you do.
Yeah.
You've
Right,
have you've got to have balance. So
right,
that's
right.
important to have balance as you're navigating parenthood. And you know, you've got, you know, the high school family support system has, you know, full disclaimer, our children actually go to school together.
Right, right, right.
You know, there are folks looking out for you. Do you find that do you find that people try to help you out in terms of, you know, just like some of the parents in terms of,
Especially in the beginning to the point that you had to say,
you got
we're
this?
trying to figure this out on ourselves. So it just give us some time. I could do this for, I could do this, I could take her to get her hair done, I could get the library, I could do this. I said, just give us time to figure it out ourselves. But I really saw it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Really saw it.
Okay. So I really do thank you for just being so transparent and
Mm-hmm.
for sharing your story. Like I said, I, you know, have had an opportunity to kind of watch you as a
Mm-hmm.
parent. Um, and you are one of those fathers that I'm like, okay, doing a great job.
Thank you.
But I
Thank
so I, you know, always want to try and make sure I highlight the positive that we do have, because so often, as I stated before, you hear the negative stories
you.
and
Exactly.
you know,
Exactly. And not to interrupt you, it's amazing you said that. Like you hear so many negative stories about black men. And I thought to myself, growing up, all I saw was positivity with black men, positive, hardworking, strong black men. Started with my father to my uncles on both sides of the family. I said, all I saw was hardworking men taking care of their family. I know nothing but that. I said, where's this narrative coming from? We do know there are people who not taking care of business. Okay. But that's not just black fathers, that's in every aspect, every community, every ethnic group. But I mean, I could tell you maybe three guys from Channel 7 I know. One is deceased, one is retired, one is still currently active. They all raised kids by themselves, you
mm.
know? Yeah, and I mean, people don't highlight things like that.
So
You
you
know?
know what? As
Make it, I'm sorry, it's four that I knew who raised kids by themselves.
now, as someone who works in the media,
Mm-hmm.
right? What do you think is the reason that um, the positive um, the positive aspects of Black men isn't highlighted?
I think I could tell you from our station, I think sometimes we highlight it more than it seems. So I've done quite a few positive stories on black men in the community uh, doing a lot. I just think with anything, the negativity outshines the positivity.
Mm.
That's how it is. From tabloids to everything, negativity outshines positivity. Positivity is deemed boring sometimes. It's a lot of good fathers out here. A
Absolutely.
lot of good.
And,
Yeah.
and actually, just to highlight for people who may not recall this or who didn't know this, you this summer for Father's Day, I think Congressman Danny Davis, he highlighted Black fathers and
Hmm.
given an award. You had an opportunity to be on the other side of the camera. So,
Right.
so tell us about that too, because was that something, an initiative or something that was just
It,
started?
it was mainly fathers on the west side, and the west side gets a bad rep.
Oh yeah,
It gets a it gets a bad rep, and it's something he just wanted to start to highlight the fathers in the community. A lot of good fathers out there. If you really think about it, if you paint the narrative, there's so many bad fathers, it would be total anarchy and chaos in the street. a lot of these men are trying to keep the communities together,
Yeah.
but that's something positive Danny Davis did, and something he wants to continue doing. And you saw the video; a lot of men were celebrated. You
Mhm.
know, they
And
kind of they kind of bushwhacked me and made me get up and speak. I wasn't ready for that, but
well,
I appreciate it.
how did you feel being highlighted?
Felt great. Yeah, I felt great. I mean, a little nervous. I'm used to being behind the camera, not in front of it. So it's a good thing.
Well, we like to see you in front of the camera a little bit more, Derrick.
That might happen. I don't know what God has for me. That might happen.
Maybe one day you could be my co-host.
Okay. We got to go national and syndicated, though.
Okay. We can work on it. You could be the executive producer then.
There you go. There you go.
Let me ask you another question as far as there's something that also became that was recurring in my conversations with two of the other dads that I interviewed. And they talked about their circle of friends, right?
hmm
And the type of men or their friends that they interact with, and how
hmm
all of their friends are good fathers, they're
Right.
involved fathers.
Right. Right.
Um, what's your, I mean,
Exactly. And I guarantee you in that conversation that any of them ever say if you was not a good father, they would have nothing to do with him, right?
absolutely. Yeah,
And that's true. Everybody I know is a good father, even the ones that may be separated from the child's mother. They're active in their kid's life, and it's like anything in life. It's who you surround yourself with. Greatness or mediocrity,
mm,
So for me to be a good father, I'm going to surround myself with other men who are good fathers. You know,
mhm,
I feed off them, they feed off me.
mm.
That's the only way I see it. I wouldn't celebrate or be friends with somebody I know purposely is abandoning his kids.
Now,
You
as a father, what, in your opinion, are the characteristics that makes a good father? What is a good father?
Loving, patient, um, protector. That's very important. Protector and motivator. You
Mm,
have to speak life into these kids. Well, we know these kids make us mad sometimes, but even at your darkest moment, you got to motivate them. You got to speak life into them. You have to pray over them. You know, it's times my daughter. I've gone to my daughter's room and she's woken up with me standing over her. And she's like, "What you doing? You trying like I'm trying to scare her?" She don't know I'm standing over you, praying over you. So I mean, those are just some of the characteristics.
yeah.
But just motivate them and let them know they can do or be whoever they want to be. You know, do or be anything.
Hmm.
I don't think is enough motivation. We're quick to tear them down, and they're going to do things that make you mad, make you point and keep going. Don't beat them up with it. That's something I had to learn. Don't keep beating them over the head with it. You made your mistake, move forward. You
Right.
know.
Now, how are you? Because your daughter's a junior,
hmm
got really a year and a half, give or take.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So, are you prepared for her to go away to school?
Listen, we talk. We know our kids want to go far from school. We know that much.
Right.
I'm gonna play the hard role. Of course, I'm gonna go in the corner and shed some tears when it's time. But I want her to get away and do and live her life and do fantastic.
Mhm.
So in one aspect, I'm going to miss her, but in another aspect, I'm letting her go to go out there and conquer the world. So it is what it is. I still got a year and a half with her, but
Yeah.
yeah, I know. I think about it sometimes.
I don't want you to get all sad now.
I won't. I won't. I won't.
And I didn't mean to really focus so much on her because I know you do have two other children, but they are
They're grown. Yeah.
right. Um,
Uh-huh.
but I do. There's a significant age difference between the two.
That's a 14-year age difference between the oldest and the the youngest.
So certainly with that, you were more mature when your daughter was born in
I
terms of
was
just
I was more mature, had more money in the bank. So yeah, I was a sophomore when my oldest was born. I was 34 and traveling the world with ABC at no, let me change that. I was 20 years old and a sophomore when my son was born.
a sophomore in college.
College. I was 34 when she was born.
Wow.
Traveling the world with ABC. So, it's a big significant difference.
Yeah.
You live and learn.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely your parenting, I'm sure, evolved over
Oh, most definitely.
definitely. And then you were blessed with a daughter, and daughters, especially when they're the youngest, you know what we do.
Yeah, I know. I bet.
That's right. We have
Around your finger, huh?
absolutely.
I know. Trust me, I know.
Are there any last thoughts that you'd like to share? Because I know you've got things to do, you've got a busy schedule, but
I I would like anybody, and I'm not speaking from a widower aspect.
mhm,
We know there's a lot of couples that aren't together, that have children that aren't together. Put the pride to the side and say we have to do what's best for these kids. I mean, these kids are going to go out there and contribute, to society. You don't want any bitterness in them. You don't want them angry and resentful. Just put your pride to the side, raise them the best you can. Just come together for that purpose
mm.
and raise them. If we had more of that instead of so much division, I think things would be so much better in our community.
So and that's a whole another
It's
time.
a whole other show, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
But what I find to be very interesting, and it's maybe it's the men that I've selected, to talk to about this, but that's that topic right there about putting your pride to the side in order to co-parent,
Right, right.
positively. That's something that also came up in
Hmm.
in the other two interviews.
Hmm.
Um, and normally for me and my experience, I hear that from other single moms.
Right, right.
And so it's interesting to hear it from a man
Hmm.
saying that. What do you think? I mean, because that's also easier said than done too. Both parties have to want to put their pride, their ego to the side in order to, but how do you get to that point? You know what I mean?
Communication. That's the only way you're gonna get to the point is communication. Somebody has to come to the table first. Somebody's gonna have to drop their pride and leave others out of your business. You don't need any outside agitators telling you what they. Everybody's gonna tell you what they would do, and they're not gonna do anything. They love giving you fake advice. If it was me, it's not you. So somebody has to be the big person and come to the table. Hey, we need to sit down. Now you can't make anybody bend to your will or make anybody talk, but it's a start. But if we're going to get anywhere, the division has to stop. Not just with parenting, but with everything.
With
We
that.
have to stop. You know.
Well, that's excellent advice. Um, and hopefully we'll begin to take heed, to that because we definitely, I think if there isn't one thing that 2020 has not taught us, it should be that as a people we need to come together and
Right.
work together,
Right.
definitely on all
All that. Thanks.
yeah,
Mhm.
because ultimately also our children collectively are suffering, the community
Yes, exactly.
suffering when we are not, working together. So
And then those children eventually are going to grow up and produce children, and they're going to have bitterness and angriness. And I hear grown people my age complaining about what their father didn't do or what their mother didn't do, and they didn't teach me this and teach me that. And I'm like, whoa, you know,
mhm.
yeah, it lingers. There are lingering effects.
Yeah,
Yeah,
certainly, it certainly is. And but we also need to make sure we work on healing.
exactly.
You got to heal too. probably before you can even try to take that step to develop, the type of partnership with one another that you need to. Like, you gotta definitely kind of heal those wounds, because I
Right.
think all of us are hurting one way or another, different, areas of our lives.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much, Derrick. I really appreciate chatting with you. Maybe next time, if I'll extend, well, first of all, I'll extend an invitation. Will you come back on the show again?
Okay. Thank you. And most definitely, I'll come back. Yes.
Okay. We'll have to, I don't know, we'll find something to talk about. There are plenty of topics I'm sure we can come up with.
You come up with exactly.
All right. Well,
Right.
so thank you everyone for tuning in to this episode of Light It Up with my guest, Derrick Robinson. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and make sure you tune in next week. I'll have another very interesting guest. So I'll leave you. As always, don't forget to light it up and shine bright like a diamond. Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LightItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.